Hello, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here for the first time, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name's Hannah, and on this channel I post a lot of content about anti-MLM. So as always, I link a playlist here at the beginning of my videos. This is my big anti-MLM playlist. We're creeping closer to 170 videos on there at this time. But additionally, if you're really into these horror stories, or you really like the top fails, or you really like the deep dives, all these types of videos are broken down into smaller playlists on my channel as well. Today we've got another MLM horror stories video for you. These are the personal experiences that people have had with MLM companies. They write out their story, they send it to me, I put it in a folder in my email, and I choose a few to read for these videos. I currently have over 1,300 horror stories in my inbox right now, but in saying that, I can never have too many. This is a fantastic problem to have. So if you have your own story you would like to send in, the instructions for how to do that are down below. And lastly, before we read these stories, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Paired. Paired is an app to improve communication, stay connected, and deepen your intimacy as a couple, with the mission to improve the happiness of people in romantic relationships. Before I go any further, I have to tell you right up front that me and my husband downloaded Paired way back in 2021. So we've had a lot of time and experience using Paired, and we love it, and I'm confident that you're gonna love it too. The way it works is that Paired has tons of quizzes and questions and games that you and your partner can do to bring you closer together. You can choose which topics are really important to you, like communication or money and finances or fun and excitement, and you answer questions and quizzes with your partner on those topics. My husband AJ and I really like to answer the daily questions, and the coolest part to me is that I can't see what he responded until I submit my own answer, and it's really interesting to see sometimes how we interpreted that question and how we may have chosen to answer it differently or sometimes very similarly, and this often leads to deeper conversations, which I think is pretty cool. I personally believe that communication is a huge key to a happy and healthy relationship, and it's important to prioritize that connection with your partner. This is especially relevant in our current lives right now because we're expecting a baby any day now. Genuinely, okay? We're at that stage where our lives are about to change at a moment's notice, it feels like, and I'm anticipating that becoming new parents is naturally going to shift the dynamics of our relationship a bit. So I'm looking forward to continuing to use Paired during this time, during this transition, to really prioritize those daily check-ins with my husband to keep our connection and communication at the forefront of our relationship as we're navigating new parenthood together. I even noticed today that there's a whole question pack on the app about parenting goals, which I think will be very helpful for the stage of life we're in, so I definitely plan on doing that. If you'd like to maintain and deepen your connection with your partner, you can use my link in the description box below, and this will give you 25% off Paired Premium. Thanks again, Paired, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's read some stories. This one says, "Hi Hannah, I have an unethical horror story to share with you regarding the fitness industry and how the shady Huns of Xyngular prey on vulnerable people trying to live a healthier lifestyle." Xyngular. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever really talked about this company before. Hi Zeke, welcome to the party. Say hello to your fan club. This is a topic that frankly pisses me off as I'm a fitness instructor and have a monumental hatred of health and wellness MLMs. Of course, we all know it's not just Xyngular that does this. They just happen to be in my story today. Also, please keep me anonymous as I'm from a small town where everyone knows and talks about everyone. I don't often hear you mention Xyngular, so for anyone who isn't familiar, it's another health and wellness MLM that promises rapid weight loss. Product highlights include their 30-day Ignite system, their 8-day Jumpstart kit, and their signature Zing energy pills. How do I know this, you ask? One of the top of the pyramid Xyngular Huns lives a few towns over, and between her and her downline, it's become impossible to ignore. I also tried Zing once in a period of desperation and thought I was having a heart attack. Anyway, here's my story. I've always been overweight, and growing up as a plus-size teen in the 2000s has forever altered my relationship with my body. Over the years, I've done it all, from the Atkins diet to over-the-counter pills to the famous pink drink. If there was a quick fix scheme, I would try it. Of course, nothing worked, and now I know better, but I absolutely understand the vulnerability and mindset of someone who wants nothing else but to lose weight. That desperation will make you do things you wouldn't normally do. After trying everything but putting in the work, something sparked in me around 2015, and through regular exercise and a healthy-ish diet, I lost nearly 80 pounds. I'm still considered overweight according to the BMI chart, but that's a different type of scam. I fell in love with fitness and ended up obtaining a national group fitness certification plan, which included a study program dedicated to our ethical responsibilities as instructors. I take that very seriously, as we are considered clinical professionals in our field who others look up to and seek for help. We are not meant to give or sell nutritional advice, meal plans, or supplements, as it is not within our scope of practice and may be considered a conflict of interest. Fast forward to 2019, I started teaching classes in my hometown and over 2 years created a strong community of women supporting one another. Not only did we have fun exercising together, but we became friends and many shared with me their personal weight loss struggles. I was always honest in how I lost my weight when asked, but I cautioned that what worked for me may not work for them. As much as I love teaching, I began traveling a lot for work and had to take a step back for a few months. I felt terrible about abandoning my class, but an instructor friend in the area offered to teach in my absence. I had known this person for a few years and was thrilled that she offered. I knew that she was new to teaching and, like me, fell in love with fitness while losing weight. Her method was via weight loss surgery, which she didn't publicize, but that was fine. It was her business and it didn't really matter because losing weight is hard regardless of how you lose it. However, I was one of the few people who did know about her surgery. About a month into her teaching, I started seeing her post things on Facebook that were secretive and in a voice different from her own. She never mentioned a product name, but would invite people to join her in an 8-day challenge to lose weight. At first, I thought it had something to do with the classes, but soon I realized the truth. She was selling Xyngular. That on its own made me roll my eyes, but it got worse. I dug deeper and found Facebook posts where she was straight up lying to the women in the class about how she lost the weight, claiming that it was Xyngular that did it. Reading that made me completely livid, as she was using her platform as an instructor to sell this garbage. I was fuming. Not only was it completely unethical, but I knew the personal struggles of many of the women in the comments, and it was disgusting that she was taking advantage of them. I truly don't understand how people in this industry can do that. You have a responsibility as a fitness professional to do what's best for your clients. That does not include selling them MLM trash. Luckily, someone did call her out. This person wasn't an instructor, but she was someone who also had weight loss surgery, knew about hers, and blasted her online for lying. I'm not sure how much good that did though, as she continued to sell Xyngular. We've since fallen out of touch, so I'm not sure where she is in life today, but I do wish her all the best. As for my class, I took it back over after my travels and was met with huge appreciation. Apparently, not only did she try to sell Xyngular to everyone, but the vibe changed and several people stopped coming to class. That's sad. I hated that they went through that, but I guess things worked out in the end. Since this was a few years ago, I now live elsewhere, but I'm still teaching and I'm lucky that I haven't encountered another instructor hun. I apologize this was so long, but I promise I tried to keep it short. If there's anything I can leave you with, it's to know that not all fitness instructors are like this. Most of us are honest, normal people with the same struggles and insecurities as you. We use exercise to keep our sanity and enjoy creating classes that are fun yet challenging and that are a safe space where you can express yourself. If you do encounter an instructor hun or a trainer hun, trust your gut on whether or not you feel okay working with them. If you don't, you can always try another class or find a different trainer. The same goes for other service industries where MLMs exist: salons, travel agencies, real estate, finance, etc. You don't owe them anything and you can walk away at any time. Hannah, thank you for letting me share my story and know that you really are doing amazing things to educate people on the dangers of MLMs. We appreciate you. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. And I think your messaging is great. I really don't have that much more to add. You kind of said it all. You took all the words right out of my mouth. That of course, not everybody in the health and fitness space is in an MLM or has something to pitch you or they're trying to sell you on something. That's oftentimes not the case, but it does still happen. There are some people who still slip through the cracks and they exploit their position as the trainer or as the expert in that setting to try and convince people that they have a product that's going to further them in their health goals. The added detail in this particular story about the weight loss surgery is an interesting one because, like you said, if she has weight loss surgery to lose weight, fine, you do you, that's great. What's not okay though is going forward in your life and claiming that you lost that weight due to a product and not due to a surgery. It's fine if you have surgery, but at least be open and honest about that. Don't claim that it's because of this pill or powder or whatever the heck she's trying to promote. It's of course really misleading and deceptive to be claiming that you gained a certain result through a certain medium when in fact that product had nothing to do with your weight loss at all. Some great lessons to be learned from your story. Thank you for sending it in. This story starts out by saying, "My workplace became a hun hunting ground. Please keep me anonymous." Hi Hannah, thank you so much for your content. I love watching your videos and laughing and cringing along to all the relatable stories. My story begins when I started a new job in the childcare industry. I was 18 years old, fresh-faced, and ready to begin my career. As so often happens in the childcare industry, the majority of my colleagues were young women in the 20 to 40 age range. Unfortunately, this also seems to be the age range that most women fall victim to MLM madness. The workplace was more than I could have hoped for. Everyone was so friendly, and I quickly became very close friends with almost everyone that worked there, including management. As time went on, I came to realize that this workplace was much closer than others. We all spent most of our time together, even when not working. We would party, go clubbing, or just hang out at each other's houses. As a young 20-something, this was great, and I felt like I had the biggest group of friends, and we all worked so well together. Some of the women I worked with, particularly management, seemed to have some side hustles, which I became aware of when I was first invited to attend a Tupperware party. I didn't know Tupperware was an MLM at this point. I'd grown up with Tupperware. My mother and grandmother both used it, and I had come to know it as the superior food storage option. I was weary of attending as I had attended a Tupperware party when I was a child with my mother and found it dreadfully boring. However, my manager convinced me that it would be fun because there was going to be cocktails prepared for us by the host, who it later turned out was only preparing cocktails to show off some new piece of equipment. When I arrived, I was shocked to see the copious amounts of alcohol that had been provided by my manager. A lot of the girls were already drunk and doing shots. I joined the party, which was quickly taken over by the host. We all drunkenly sat through a very dull presentation. At the end, we were presented with ordering slips and asked to place an order. I was shocked at the prices. I literally couldn't afford anything on the list, and as we all worked together, I knew that so many other girls could not either. This did not stop the host from pressuring us into just buying something to help out our manager so that she could get a free item. Thankfully, I didn't buy anything, but most of the girls at the party did, and I'm sure the alcohol didn't help. Ooh, yeah, see, this is a recurring theme that I've noticed. This is not the first time that someone's told me that there was alcohol provided at an MLM party, probably strategically. I can imagine that it was used in a way to help lower people's inhibitions and to make them more willing to spend their money on this kind of thing that they may or may not actually be able to afford and may or may not even need, but because they have some alcohol in their system and they're feeling relaxed and feeling good and maybe in like a supportive mood, they're maybe more likely to purchase that product being pitched to them, especially when it sounds like the host is saying, make sure you place your orders so that your manager over here, the person helping me host the party, is gonna get her prize at the end of it. That's how MLM parties work. There's kind of two people in charge here. One of them is the MLM rep themselves, in this case, the Tupperware sales lady, and the other person is the one who's agreed to host the party and invite the guests. In this case, that's your manager. So the Tupperware lady is putting everyone in this really awkward position of being like, there's an incentive for your manager to get a gift or a prize or a free product or whatever if we hit some certain sales volume for this party. So you need to do your part and order something so that she can get her prize. And on top of that, everyone's a little tipsy, okay? Just not a good situation. As what I can only describe as punishment for not buying anything, I was pressured into volunteering to host a party. No! The host was very manipulating and said things like, quote, it will help you get on good terms with your boss. And if you can't afford to buy anything, then host a party. I left that party feeling manipulated and very embarrassed as I was the only one that didn't buy anything because I didn't have the money. Flash forward to a few weeks later, the Hun host was calling my phone nonstop to organize a party. She even told me to ensure that I provided alcohol at the party because it helps people relax and not stress about spending money. Ding, ding, ding. What did I just say? Oh my gosh, that's so frustrating because that's what we suspected and here she is confirming it. I booked a date for the party, but fortunately I ended up having to move houses on the date planned, so I rang and canceled. The Hun did not take this well and proceeded to call me every few days for months until I eventually blocked her number. This was the beginning of the MLM madness that swept through my workplace. Every few weeks, a new person was leaving catalogs for a new business on the lunch table and inviting the entire company to parties. I'm sure that over 80% of our workplace was involved in some kind of MLM. The companies I can remember include Tupperware, Body Shop, Party Light, some bedsheet one, I can't remember the name of that one, Isogenics, Flashengeist, Flaschengeist? Okay, one second, hold on. Okay, it's a German word. Apparently it is pronounced Flaschengeist. You say here in parentheses that they sell alcohol. Arbonne, Pure Romance, Lip Sense, just to name a few. The MLMs began to affect the entire business as the managers in the office would spend more time working on their personal businesses than for the childcare business. Every time I would come into the office, all of the managers would be tending to their own side hustles while getting paid by the childcare business. Their own work was often neglected, making the work environment difficult to say the least. Every event would turn into a hun-off with everyone setting up stalls and trying to sell and recruit the parents and other staff. Ooh, cringy. We host an end-of-year fete each year, which features a market, and most of the market was the employees with stalls setting up MLM products. Personal events also became MLM infested as several women we worked with were engaged, getting married, having baby showers, etc. As we were all such close friends, we would often all attend. Every party turned into an MLM presentation. Friends would offer to do a makeover night for a hen's party that would turn into a lip sense presentation. A baby shower pamper session would turn into a body shop display. A girls' night would turn into a pure romance party, and so on. I was actually thankful in the end for the terrible experience I had at that first Tupperware party. It put me off so much, and I was so wary of the parties and the pressure to sell that I never bought anything. And I count myself lucky because so many other girls I know got sucked in and spat out, spending hundreds of dollars. Thank you for reading my story. I hope it helps other people avoid the same situations. How unfortunate that it sounds like when you first joined this workplace that everyone was in community with one another, really getting along, hanging out, and then slowly MLMs just invaded it all and totally changed the group dynamic. And I'm always really sad to see in particular when things like baby showers or bachelorette parties or whatever are turned into opportunities to sell an MLM product, because those are, in my opinion at least, really important and sentimental milestone events in somebody's life that would really suck to have to look back on and think, dang, my whole baby shower was dedicated to an MLM pitch, or my whole bachelorette party was taken over by this presentation. Just like, I don't know, for me on like a sentimental level, that would really be a bummer if I had to look back on those things in my life and realize that the focus wasn't necessarily on celebrating that event. It was more so on selling a product. Ooh, it just feels so icky to me. I don't love that it seems like alcohol was a strategic thing to have at these parties, and I also don't love that you were pressured into hosting your own party because you didn't buy a Tupperware product. It feels like you're being punished for not having the money to spend or not wanting to spend your money that way, and as a result, you're being pushed to host your own party. Like, that feels really wrong to me too. I'm glad that you didn't actually end up hosting that, but I like the conclusion to your story that you said, in the end, I'm thankful for this because I had such a bad experience that I never had any desire to get involved myself, and I think that's great. Thank you for sending in this story. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I want to start by saying that I love how informative, articulate, and empathetic you are in your videos. Thank you. You speak about things from a very logical yet caring standpoint, and I want to thank you for doing what you do. I've been familiar with MLMs for quite a while. When I was very young, I remember attending pampered chef parties put on by dance teachers, family members, or friends, and I always thought they were strange and ingenuine, even before I knew what they were. I've also seen friends get involved with MLMs and leave MLMs because they suffered financially. I've been reached out to by strangers, acquaintances, or friends many times over the years through social media, many of whom were Monet or Beachbody Huns, and I have thankfully never fallen victim to them. Needless to say, I've been anti-MLM for a long time. Very recently, I was watching one of your videos and you mentioned Amway. I audibly gasped and was thrown into a memory of an experience I had during one of my college years about 7 years ago. For context, Amway is founded by Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel, who are some big names that can be seen all over Grand Rapids, where I was living at the time. For example, there's the DeVos Performance Hall, the Van Andel Arena, the Amway Grand Plaza, etc. Anyway, at the time, I was a Spanish minor taking one of my final elective courses. It was a course in which we were learning about cultural norms and vocabulary that pertained to everything business related. One day, my professor mentioned that he wanted to take us on a field trip to the Amway headquarters, which also happened to be where the products were manufactured. He mentioned that it was this marvelous company that encompassed a host of opportunities, which is why he was excited to connect us by taking us on a tour. Because the class was entirely in Spanish, I had to be sure that I understood him correctly, so I asked my Spanish partner, who confirmed that we would be required to go on this field trip. I was thinking to myself, what on earth does this have to do with the Spanish for Business course? But ultimately decided that there must be a reason. At the time, I knew very little about Amway as a company. The following week, we traveled to the headquarters and were greeted by a peppy individual who clearly knew our professor personally because she gave him a huge hug. She guided us through the large doors and into this auditorium where we watched a quick video about the origins of the company and where the company is today. It was all in English, by the way. After the video, she took us on a tour through what I can best describe as a museum exhibit. If I remember correctly, she called it the Welcome Center, and it was full of screens with various graphics, videos, and audio messages. The information that was displayed was all about how the company started and where it is today, a rags to riches story, if you will. And it highlighted all the different beauty, health, and home-related products that the company sells. It was so bizarre. We also got to step into the factory where some of the products were being made, as well as walk by a huge window where we could see all the health and beauty products being tested. Inside were health scientists that were ethically testing all of the products. Though there probably was product testing going on, it honestly felt like we were observing a performance when one of the scientists smiled and waved at us. After what felt like an eternity of looking at products within the exhibit and hearing the tour guide go on and on about how ethical and eco-friendly the products were, we made it back to the front of the building. At the end of the trip, my professor told us all that he can connect us to opportunities involving the company if we felt inspired by what we saw. Everything about the experience screamed MLM, and I truly felt uneasy the whole time. I'm not sure what the others were thinking, but it gave me an uncomfortable feeling. I remember thinking, how is this allowed? I later did a Google search on Amway and felt validated when I saw that it is labeled as an MLM. I feel that it is important to mention that the entire trip was in English, which I found very odd because we were required to go for a Spanish course. If I had to guess, he wanted to make sure we understood every word. Perhaps we would be more inspired to join the company that way. It truly feels like a fever dream now. I can only hope the other students in my class felt as strange as I did and did not take him up on the offer. Talk about predatory. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Best wishes to you and the family. I'm with you on this one. This is bizarre, especially considering that you are in a Spanish course. Yes, it is related to business, but that's kind of the only loose connection you could make between your Spanish class going on a trip to the Amway headquarters. I think you're right on the money that this was likely some kind of attempt to introduce the business opportunity to these young and impressionable college students. Because why else would you be on this trip? It doesn't make any other sense otherwise. I think the fact that it appears your professor knew the person giving the tour is highly compelling. The fact that everything was in English is also highly compelling, that it didn't really have anything to do with your Spanish course. And yeah, to me, it completely feels like this professor took advantage of the fact that he had a group of college students that he knew he could require to go on this field trip, and he would have a captive audience for this business opportunity pitch, essentially. That's completely what this feels like here. And that's not okay, especially if it was a required field trip, like you were going to be penalized if you didn't go on it. That's extra sketchy to me. Maybe it's one thing if he's like, hey, I have this semi-related field trip that's optional. If you'd like to attend, that would be great. And it's a whole other thing to require that you go tour the Amway headquarters as a part of a Spanish course. It just does not compute. It doesn't make sense. And it feels to me like he was absolutely taking advantage of his position of power in this situation by using his position as a professor and essentially forcing all of his students to go to the Amway headquarters and to listen to this business opportunity pitch and then disguising it as a mandatory field trip. Don't love that at all. This is extremely bizarre, but it does make for a really good story, so thanks for sending it in. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I've been watching your videos for a few months and I'm enjoying the content that you're putting out for the world. What gets me drawn the most is your respect and attitude. I've been anti-MLM for a while and I'd like to bring up a good part of my childhood, my mom's involvement in MLMs. This is going to be a long story, but we all like binge watching and listening here. As a little background, I'm half Japanese with a US Marine dad and a Japanese mom. My mom, even to this day, has always favored a more natural route in trying to solve problems in life and then using medication as a last resort. Such as when I got diagnosed with depression in my teens, she took me to a Reiki healing session and a chiropractor first before I got on prescription medication. Energy, vibration, live, laugh, love. My mom had been working at a travel agency for a good part of the 90s and early 2000s in Japan. And with the rise of the public availability of the internet, the services have started to slow down. I don't quite remember when the switch happened, but my mom had ultimately jumped ship to an MLM called New Ways, now known as Modere. That's interesting. I did not know that. New Ways. Yeah, I've never heard of that before, but I've definitely heard heard of Modere. Her upline was living in a large house, which is quite rare in Japan, and she owned a large Dalmatian dog. And my mom was extremely determined to be successful just like her. Before the rebranding to Modere, New Way's main focal point was this health drink called Maximal that purifies toxins from your body. It tasted horrible, and we had to take a shot of it every morning before school. I never really felt much of a difference on the days that I took it or not, but I don't remember if my mom had ever asked me if I felt a difference. We also had a noni drink that tasted just as bad. Things started to ramp up year after year. I remember my siblings and I being dragged to a conference room for a New Ways party of some sort one day, and there were a lot of women in nice dresses and men in suits. At one point in the event, they rolled out a presentation with a projector. They asked for someone to volunteer for a showing, and they needed to draw some blood for a sample. What? I'm scared about where this is about to lead. A man gets picked and he gets a sample of his blood drawn. They place the sample on a microscope and they take a closer look at the movement of the blood cells, clumped and stuffed. They make him take a shot of the Maximal, and not even a minute later, they draw his blood again. And the projector shows the image of the cells moving smooth like a waterfall. Everyone is clapping and cheering, while I'm just a 10-year-old kid eating finger sandwiches at my table, wondering why all these adults were just so excited. I have to pause right here because I've never heard anything like this demonstration before. This is a new one for me, and I'm not even going to try to explain what's going on here because I don't know. Drawing blood from somebody, then he drinks the MLM product and they draw his blood again, and his blood looks different under a microscope, and these blood draws happened within minutes of each other. Is that possible? I don't know, clearly. If you have your blood drawn 1 minute and then you ingest something orally the next minute and then you have your blood drawn again on the 3rd minute, is that enough time for whatever you just ingested to hit your bloodstream? I genuinely don't know the answer to that, and it could be that that is possible and normal. I guess I just don't really understand the point of this demonstration. I'm sure the presenters did a very crafty job at setting all of this up and explaining what the difference was and stuff like that, but very, very strange. I've never heard of anybody getting their blood drawn as part of an MLM pitch before. Since I was a kid, I wasn't involved in my mom making sales pitches or recruiting, but it was successful enough for her to make some very impulsive, questionable, and rash decisions with her earnings. One day she came back with the quote, fluffiest and the best futon ever. Futon in Japan is like a giant comforter, not a foldable bed like in English, that was over $70. Then her other major purchase was a Kangen water filter. Thank goodness she didn't become a distributor, but that was still expensive. Yes, they are thousands of dollars. As a kid, I didn't care about how I was going to fill up the water for my pot of mac and cheese, and I would get yelled at by my mom if she caught me not using the filter. There were probably many other things that I don't remember, but those two stuck out to me the most. She finally ascended to the BMW level, whatever that level is actually called. She had roped in enough people at the time, whether it be to recruit or to sell, to create enough income to get to that level. She was going to get that shiny new BMW. She signed off on getting the car in her name. Everything was fabulous until my aunt at the last minute decided that she was not going to pursue New Ways like her sister. And so did the others. Her downline and general sales started to crumble. But at least we have that new car and can sell it, right? Wrong. Since my mom had signed off on it, the car was branded as used, even though she hadn't physically received the car yet. The car's resale value dropped by a lot, and she still had to pay for the initial amount that was agreed upon. It was an SUV, so it was very cumbersome to drive in Japan, a land of very small roads. We actually got stuck in a neighborhood one time when the SUV couldn't get by another relatively large car, and the folks in the immediate area got involved and teamed up in helping us get through. It was embarrassing, and I'm sure my mom felt it too, but tenfold. That is just something I never would have even considered living in the United States, that this multi-level marketing company has a BMW incentive program, but in some countries, having a big ol' SUV is not very practical. And aside from that, this experience really speaks to the fact that these are not free cars or company paid cars, and we talk about that all the time. But when you join an MLM, MLM and they have a car incentive or a bonus program, that doesn't mean that they're giving you a car for all your hard work. No, what they're doing is they're saying you can go buy that car if you want, and we're going to give you a check every month to go towards that car payment if you uphold your level of performance. And it sounds like in this case, your mom got the car, but then her downline crumbled. So maybe now she's not upholding that rank where you can be eligible for the car bonus, and now it's all her responsibility to pay for it. Oh, it's just such a terrible situation to put yourself in. MLM car bonus programs are scams. They are scams inside of scams, okay? Now, this is the part that I didn't know until I asked my dad out of curiosity a few years ago, which is about 20 years after the end of her involvement at New Ways, the true dark side of this debacle. My dad was no longer in the Marine Corps and had been a military contractor for a while now, and his job was unfortunately cut. Luckily, his employer gave him a few months to find a new job. My dad had found a job in Florida and told our family that we were going to be moving back to the United States. That's when my mom told my dad, I can't leave. It turns out that she was in a massive debt from the car and those expensive material things that she bought and others. For a long time, she said she was fine. She was going to make all that money back. And at the time, she kind of was. The cracks definitely started to show around the SUV, and it finally burst around the time my dad lost his job. My dad told me that he was very close to divorcing my mom right then and there, but he decided that he was going to stick with her and ultimately came to the decision of liquefying all 3 kids' college funds to pay off the debt so that they can leave Japan. I was 11 and my twin siblings were 10 at the time. My parents are still together and they celebrated their 30-year marriage in 2022. My mom has not been in any kind of MLM since 2005. She's never told me not to join stuff like that, but I've seen enough to know what kind of damage it has on the people around you. Thank you for what you do and keep up the great work. Wow, having all that debt thanks to an MLM and then having to liquefy your kids' college funds to pay it off. Ooh, that's a really tough spot to be in. And the piece I'm taking away from this is that I think the argument could be made that from the outside, it looked like your mom was quote unquote successful in New Ways, right? She seemed to be doing well and selling a lot and growing her downline and reaching the rank for the BMW incentive. She got the BMW. It appears through your eyes that she had a lot of extra income to be spending on things like $1,000 water filters and nice blankets. But that's just what it looks like from the outside. It's all a facade. And what it all ended up coming down to is that your mom was actually in massive debt thanks to this business opportunity. And I just want to make it clear how common that is. That even if it looks like somebody in an MLM is doing good from the outside or is successful, there's oftentimes a lot more under the surface that we don't know about. And this business model makes it very easy for people to dig themselves into that hole of debt, to be able to portray themselves as being successful on the outside when truly in reality, things are crumbling. I'm really sorry that this happened to your mom and it put your family into that kind of position, but I also want to reassure you. I don't know if reassure is the right word, but I want to make it clear that this is common and this happens to a lot of people. And I appreciate your willingness to write out this story so that I can share it and so that other people listening who may have gone through something very similar can find comfort in knowing that it wasn't just them and it wasn't their quote unquote failures of any kind. It really is just common that people in MLMs lose money, and that doesn't always just apply to the people at the bottom ranks. It can apply to people who have worked their way up as well. This story says, preamble, horror story is a bit strong. I just think this story is funny. I was mid-pregnancy and all I wanted was a smoothie. Can I just tell you, I relate to that so hard. You have no idea. Cold, icy, fruity, bubbly things right now. That is heaven. I crave that all day long. And now I really want a smoothie. Thank you for this. I have some ice water. Maybe that'll do. We live in a very rural part of the country. No Jamba Juice or tropical smoothie for miles and miles. So my immediate options were number 1, make my own smoothie. Or number 2, don't have a smoothie. There has been this shady shop down the street from me for a couple years. I think it's a converted taco shop. They hand hand painted the exterior from yellow to green, and the yellow peeks through in places. The big road sign was all hand painted and the letters were all crooked. The shop name is something like 800 Nutrition. I always thought it was a kind of herbal supplement woo-woo type place. You know, the kind that sells colloidal silver, so I never stopped in. In a pregnancy-fueled obsession, I desperately Googled every permutation of smoothie that I could find. I found out that they sold colorful drinks. The Facebook photos of the drinks looked way nicer than the exterior of the building. Now I think that some of those are Herbalife stock photos. They looked like smoothies. Jackpot! If this worked out, I could walk to get a smoothie every day. I fantasized about this new smoothie-filled life and I stopped in. It was fairly clean inside, clearly DIY improvements, but there was an honest effort to clean it up. The wall had all the drink flavors written out and at least half of them were misspelled, which I found endearing. I asked, "Do you sell smoothies?" And the nice lady at the counter said, "No, we sell shakes." And I have to say, I didn't know that there was a difference between smoothie and shakes until now. Oh boy, were you in for a ride. The weirdest thing was that I couldn't just buy my damn drink. Like, it was not a normal restaurant experience in any way. When you walk up to the register at a normal fast food type place, you tell the cashier what you want, you exchange money, you get your food. Done. This transaction had like 5 extra steps. I had to give my name, phone number, and email address on a clipboard. I gave fake information because, like, you don't need my deets for me to buy a beverage. The credit card transaction was clearly on her personal phone. I had to get the cleansing tea first. I said no thank you, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. I had to hear how these shakes were a great meal replacement, that they were so healthy and would give me so much energy. Bro, I'm 100% ready to buy this drink. Just cut to the chase. In the end, the nice lady was right. It was not a smoothie. It was a protein shake. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. A week or so later, I drove to the nearest city and got myself a smoothie. It was divine. My current smoothie location that I go to is Costco. My husband and I go grocery shopping there like every week, and I've made a point to get a smoothie most times that we go there because they are delightful and fresh and fruity. Fantastic for a craving. Okay, anyway, moving on. I would be so disappointed if I went into an Herbalife shop expecting a smoothie and I got a shake, because you're completely right. They are two different things. And in an Herbalife nutrition club, as they're called, to my knowledge, most, if not all of them, do not have any kind of fresh produce whatsoever. This is not a smoothie shop. We're not like blending together different vegetables and fruits here. We're taking powders and mixing them with liquid in different concoctions for different flavors. Definitely not the same thing, and it would not satisfy a smoothie craving, that's for sure. A lot of these details do check out in the sense that a lot of these Herbalife nutrition clubs have the word nutrition in the title of the shop. They're not allowed to say the word Herbalife in the name of the location, and typically these locations do look a little bit sketchy from the outside. So those are 2 telltale signs of an Herbalife nutrition club, is that it has nutrition in the title and they always look a little bit sketchy from the outside. That's pretty standard. A lot of them also have like blacked out windows and stuff. It's very strange. So you can use those clues to help you deduce if you're supporting a small business or if it's actually like an undercover Herbalife front, right? The weirdest part of this whole story to me is what you had to do to actually get your shake. Name, phone number, and email address. Completely unnecessary in a normal business, like you said. You did give fake information, which is probably smart of you, but I wonder if you did give your real information, if they would start perhaps calling you or emailing you, I don't know, with like Herbalife promotional material, or like they're going to try and contact you to come to an info session, or maybe a Zoom call, or they want to give you more information on the opportunity. Like, what kinds of information are they going to be sending to you if you did give them your contact info? That's what I want to know. Because yeah, it feels very odd, very strange that you would have to give anything like that to be able to purchase a product from a shop. This is completely an Herbalife front, and I am so sorry for you that you had to endure this when you were pregnant and you just wanted a smoothie, okay? Nothing sounds worse to me right now than expecting you're going to and get a smoothie and getting something like an Herbalife shake. And with that, my friends, it's all the stories I have for you for this MLM Horror Stories video. Thanks to everyone who sent in their story. I greatly appreciate you. I could not make these videos without you. If you have your own story, check out the description box to see how you can send that to me. And again, thank you to Paired for sponsoring today's video. You can click the link in the description box below for 25% off Paired Premium. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.